Hey kid, you got it right. This is Yada's vlog on a blog. Catch it with us now.
It doesn't get better than having an introduction on the vlog on the blog by Wookie. Good morning, Kevin. How are you this fine morning?
Morning. I'm doing well.
Good.
Great weather here in Missouri.
What is the temperature in Missouri?
We're 75 today.
Wow. You know, we're not much warmer than that, even here in the Virgin Islands. I bet we're going to peak out at about 85 or 86 today. So it's a little nippy in the air. But wow, for you to be in the 75 range, that is impressive for the state of Missouri.
Right. A low of 19 tonight and then a high of 30 tomorrow. So
we'll have you on the downside. I think it'll get to a really, really nippy 74 here at night. What we're doing here is our 4th edition of the vlog on the blog. It is an innovative idea. It is to combine what you witness if you go to YouTube, for example, and you will see ours and many other vlogs. We do between 1 and 2 hours of live streaming vlogging every day. It appears on probably a dozen social media channels, but YouTube is the prominent vehicle that most people watch vlogs, which is a video presentation. I have a couple of fellas or a couple of gals talking as we're talking right here, Kevin. But there is also on X and on Facebook, and really other places as well, like Instagram, TikTok. They're driven far more by a blog, which is typically an image and some copy, not a lot of copy about that particular image, because, well, people have lost the ability or interest in reading, and you get more than about 10 words into it and you've lost them. So we're going to blend the best of these worlds together here in our 4th edition. It is Wookie sponsored, called the Vlog on a Blog. And so here we're our very first image. This is a presentation I believe was done by my wife. If not, it was done by the YadaYahowah branding team. And there are so many spectacular images and graphics in this. I just love this roadway to the light. It's kind of here begins with the human soul, and it's going to have what I think is one of the great images I've ever seen for what we do, which is to have the books open up as birds that fly out of those books as the source of the tree of knowledge, and ultimately you're walking through time into a timepiece at the end of it. One is the tree of knowledge up an ascending stairway that turns into the silhouette of a human profile. There are some really spectacular images that tell a story in this. So let's go ahead and play it, if you wouldn't mind, Kevin.
Gotcha.
Pretty spectacular. One of the things that it's trying to convey is that, well, the universe is somewhere around 15 billion years old, and I know that they would like you to believe that it's 13.8, and they've measured it. They picked the wrong temperature for court confinement, and the Webb telescope is now demonstrating conclusively that the universe is older than what they had previously calculated, something I've said now for almost 20 years. But over that period of time, we only have mankind with an asama, which is a conscience, for 6,000 years. Yeah. And we are just 7 years and 9 months away from the end of time as we know it. Literally from the end of time as we know it. Yeah. There will be a continuation from that point on. We'll have 1,000 years in Eden, and then we enter the 8th octave, where we go off and explore the universe. But that is not an expression of time as we currently know it, because quite frankly, time does not flow when you become energy. So when our souls are enveloped in light and energy, we will experience time in an entirely different way. So on the experience that we have now in this ordinary flow of time, up to the time that we are admitted to Gan Eden, and a lot of these pictures are trying to show you that. That's why the image goes to the garden here. This road leads to the garden. We're being invited back to Gan Eden on Sukkah in 2033, year 6000 Yah, October 7th. And so you've got, well, less than 8 years to come to understand who Yahweh is, what he is offering, what he expects in return. The best place to do that is here as part of the YAHOWAH vlog, or the vlog on the blog, or the blogs at our various social media outlets. But most importantly, go to YadaYahowah.com, where you can read the 35 books that explain what God is offering to us and how to capitalize, because you're going to have to read diligently now to catch up, because there's just so little time remaining. So let's just play it one more time with all of that thought in place, and we'll move on to the next image.
Gotcha.
That's the book right there that was being discussed. It is Shana. It is the book on time as we know it, years. It presents the schedule between now and the time we're being offered back into the garden. In fact, my most recent book is Time of Trouble. I would strongly encourage you to take a gander at this. This is a recap of everything that's going to transpire over the next 7.5 years. So no one will be caught
news today, as you say.
Pardon? Yes, tomorrow's news today.
News today.
Yeah, delivering tomorrow's news today. This is one of the services we are providing here on the vlog on the blog. I'll let you go to our next. Thank you. Well, the screen is blocked as we're adjusting microphones here. All right, this is an interesting thing. The Pinocchio man is wearing 3 medallions. I don't know if you can see them here. It's maybe too small, but the 3 medallions on Pinocchio man are the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and it says lies and more lies. And this is really the truth of the matter, that if it were not for lies, there would be no religions. Religions are all based on catastrophic and debilitating lies. Judaism, the lie is that an oral Torah was given at the same time that the written Torah was delivered. And that is just not true. The Talmud is strictly a man-made device, and it is in many, many ways contrary to Yahweh's instructions, and that over the years, rabbis have just gone crazy with their rules and regulations and their interpretations. And there's really no group of people more dangerous to Jews than rabbis.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that if we're not for rabbis, there would be no Christianity or Islam. Rabbis trained Paul to cherry pick passages out of context, misrepresent them, twist them to his liking, and to lie to people, deceive them on that basis. That is the essence of Christianity. And the Quran literally does not exist if Muhammad had not been allowed to purchase Talmud readings from the rabbis. The reason that Islam is a religion today is that Muhammad bought Talmud readings from the rabbis. So as you are bludgeoned by the likes of Alaska Flood, and will be bludgeoned again by Alaska Flood 2.0, You can thank the rabbis, otherwise there'd be no Islam. So it is a pile of lies. We are exceedingly anti-religious here, and that is because God despises religion.
Yeah, this little puppet guy has his backup as well, politics and religion. So he's got the flags on his shoulder. So those things go hand in hand. You know, they want to talk about separation of.
They do. It's God is also opposed to politics. In Samuel, he delineates the consequence of people, particularly his people, rejecting him and choosing to go the political ways of the Goyim when they chose Shaul, and they said specifically that we want a king in the same way that the Gentiles have one to rule over them. And Yahweh came up with the 12 points initially. It says, if you choose to go this way, these are the things that will happen to you forevermore, because you have chosen to reject me. And this is the thing that a human government scheme is going to deliver to you. And it's tragic. And we've seen that Yahweh was right. And for the most part, too, when you get into monarchies, as are prevalent throughout the Islamic world, what you find is they become criminal enterprises. They're personal estates. And that's what God said, is that people who are empowered are going to rob you of everything. They're going to tax you. They're going to take your produce, and they're going to take your sons, and they're going to deploy all of this as weapons of war to conquer other people and to ensure that you can't revolt against them. And they will then bribe an inner cadre of people as priests and as generals to support their confiscation of power, their ability to control you. It is a terrible thing, and God is absolutely opposed to religion and politics.
And I remember the first time I read that translation of Shamuel. It was stunningly accurate about the taxation and giving it to his friends and sending your sons off to his wars. You know, it was like, wow.
Yeah, it's exactly.
That's where we find ourselves.
And nobody ever talks about it. I mean, I think we may have been the first. And of course, you can't talk about it if you're a Christian, because Paul writes exactly the opposite. He says that the government of Rome is godly and it's standing up for you, and it was appointed by God, and you should submit to it. He's saying exactly the opposite.
Render unto Caesar. Goodness.
Yeah, render unto Caesar. He is saying the opposite of God's point of view. So the religion of Christianity is torn asunder by it. And of course, rabbinical Judaism is also torn asunder by it. So it's and of course Islam. Allah's decree is that whoever is the king over you, you must obey. You have no choice in the matter in Islam. So Yahweh's declaration through Shamuel is pertinent against these religions. Yeah, in fact, one of the the saddest thing of the whole thing is when Shamuel was trying to deal with the rejection of Yahweh's Torah as the constitution for his people. And when they chose, instead of a shafat, a judge, to resolve disputes when the people had issues, Shamuel said, I have obviously failed. I'm very sorry, Yahweh. It's my mistake. I apologize. I don't know what happened, but clearly I failed. And Yahweh said, no, you didn't fail. They didn't reject you. They rejected me. That's, I guess, one of the reasons that Jews don't like to consider Shamuel. The declaration of Yahweh against politics and against religion throughout is that God says, no, they're rejecting me. Yeah, but they rejected Moshe, and God says, yeah, they're rejecting me. Not a good idea. He happens to be God.
Yeah.
So it's really tough to find an alternative to God. Now that's your home right there, isn't it? That's YadaYahowah Blue Channel.
Yeah, I lost video for a second.
Yes, we do. You are frozen. We still have audio, but we can't get any movement. Okay, we'll take it a moment. I'll just keep on yabbering while you've got that. But we recently rebranded all of our YadaYahowah YouTube sites. We have red, we have blue, I think we have purple as well. So we have a number of sites on YouTube, and this is one of them. And we made the announcement of this program on it. We're still trying to figure out why we lost audio out there in the hinterlands. While we're doing that, I do want to send some well wishes to a dear friend of mine. He is going for his first radiation treatment for the Big C today. It's going to be, I'm sure, a very unpleasant experience, but he has been a trooper through all of this. Amazing attitude, amazing character, amazing fortitude. A great man that's going to experience the first of, I think it's almost 40 of these treatments over the next 2 months. So it's going to be a rough day for our good friend Kirk. And we send him all of our best wishes. All right. So here we have you back, Kevin. We have audio too for you.
So.
Okay.
I think so.
E = MC squared is of course something that this is the good and bad of it. E = MC squared is something that had a profound effect on my ability to understand not only who Yahweh is and what he's offering, but what we will be like going forward. And this is the realization that destroys the myths of Christianity and Islam. And of course, that lower number, even in Arabic numerals, as they call them, they're actually Hebrew. The letter shapes are all from the third iteration of the Hebrew alphabet, circa the transition from right around 400 to 500 BCE. Anyway, reason this is important: energy equals matter, mass, times the square of the speed of light. And the reason this matters to us is that what it says with that equal sign there is that energy and matter are the same thing. They're equivalent. It's just that energy is far greater than matter, because you have to multiply matter by the square of the speed of light, which is a energy, of course. As you know, light is energy, but that means that matter is simply a lesser form of energy. So once we are transformed, once Yahweh has taken us out of these physical bodies, because the physical body is a total liability. That's why the Christian myth of God being a man is absurd. That's why all of God wouldn't fit into our galaxy, much less our solar system, much less this planet, much less a man. It's the dumbest idea ever that you're going to make a God a man. It's just utterly stupid. And then you have this man so feeble that you have men able to kill your God. That's even more stupid. But then your solution for that is a bodily resurrection, which is dumber still, because what you want to get rid of is these bodies. For you to exist outside the constraints of time, for you to get off this planet and be able to explore and do anything, for you to enter God's presence, you have to get rid of these bodies, and your soul has to be enveloped in energy. And so you think about God constantly telling us through the benefit of Bikurim and then Shabuah that we get a double-fold increase in a 10 times, not a 10 times, a 10 to the magnitude of 10 power increase in enrichment and energy and power and capability as a result of these harvests. So he's feeding us into Einstein's formula that as an energy light-based being with our souls enveloped in light and energy, we're going to be beyond comprehension enriched, empowered, enabled, enlightened as a result of this. And it also means that going forward, when we want to gather around a campfire and celebrate one of the Moed Mekre, or just sing songs and enjoy one another's company, or go off exploring on a planet someplace, we will be able to transition some of our vast amount of energy into matter again to explore within the construct of time and be able to enjoy these things, to have a mouth that can express sounds and eyes that can see light and ears that can perceive all of this. We'll be able to do that and to go back and forth between the two. It provides an understanding of what God is offering that so vastly exceeds what the religious perceive. And it's the exact opposite, of course, of what the religious are perceiving. Then at the bottom, what you have is that a jihadi man who murders for Allah is evidently rewarded with the 72 virgins. Now, by the way, there isn't a single Quran statement or a hadith that equates 1 to 72. Not one. What they all say is that a jihadi terrorist, which would be a good Muslim who goes off and follows Allah's order to kill, if he dies, then he goes to Allah's paradise, where there are multiple virgins, both boys and girls, virgins, not boys for girls, boys for boys, and girls for boys that are perpetual virgins. Now, to believe that there is a God who is ordering you to die, murdering others, who is going to reward you with constant sex with perpetual virgins, you have to be about as smart, well, as a slug. I mean, this is
right.
This is turnip level of intelligence for you to be a Muslim and believe that rot. But you go back to the top guy, that Jewish fellow there, Einstein. He had it right. Energy and matter are the same things, just different amounts of the same thing. And this is the equation that unleashes our potential going forward that Yahweh is keen on discussing and offering through his Moed Mikre. It's why why he presents himself as fire. It's why there's fires that we're encouraged to approach during the Moed Mikre.
Yeah, I think it's the failing of folks so focused on a three-dimensional bodily existence, not keeping your eyes on what comes after, that it's so much more that a body won't matter. I mean, the greatest thing you can think of for your forever is unlimited sex. I mean, that's the greatest, the peak of what you can think of for what you want to do for all of time is sex. You know, when I think those of us that are a little higher brow, I guess, are what, you know, we're getting out of the body. I don't want the hormones that go with the body. I don't want the things that go, you know, so I can go do what comes next. A focus on what's beyond this, you know, and
it's beyond all of that. Yeah. Certainly, I've got nothing against sex. I think it's highly recommended, but it isn't the epitome of all things. It is a wonderful expression of love. But virgins are conquering virgins, and a regular supply of virgins that are there for you to control isn't an expression of love. It's not even sex. Right. It's the oppression of women by men being promised eternally, and of course, it's just stupid. The better realization is that with all of the talk of Elon Musk and us becoming a multiplanetary species, never going to happen. It's absolutely impossible. And there's lots of reasons for that. The earth was specifically created such that it was conducive as a protective enclosure for life. And it is the only place that we have ever seen that is so designed. And because of the vast distances that are involved and the toxic nature of something outside of the magnetic shield of this planet and the atmosphere of this planet and the perfect gravity and temperature and all of those kinds of things in the atmosphere, we are never leaving this planet to live anywhere else. We are never going to send men to live on Mars. We could, as a stunt send men to die on Mars, and die they will, but we are never going to send somebody to live on Mars and come back to Earth. Never going to happen. And it's flat out impossible. And the same thing is even true on the moon. And the moon's only 3 days away at our current speeds, but no one's going to live on the moon. It's way too toxic to live on the moon. And there's no purpose in it. If you want to have something that's sheltered from a nuclear war, dig a damn hole in the ground, and then the gravity and everything else is conducive for you. You got water, you got oxygen. You can make it go. But the next star, the fastest we have ever traveled in a human device, not even with men aboard, just with a robotic device, it would take 70,000 years. 70,000 years to get to the nearest star.
Right.
Humans are never going to visit the next star. And the next star is, they're red dwarfs. It's a trilogy of stars that kind of dance around each other. Alpha Centauri, Proxima Centauri. And they're red dwarfs. They're way too volatile and too underpowered as stars to have a planet around them that is conducive to life. So you're just never going to get there, ever. So you might as well accept Yahowah's proposal. He has a proposal that can take you to the entire universe with E = mc squared, because when you understand that the cosmic speed limit is the speed of light, nothing can ever travel faster than the speed of light. Impossible. And it is the governing force of the universe is the speed of light. He's right. That C is the governing factor of the universe. And there is no warping it. There's no wormholes. You're not going through a black hole and coming out the other side. It's just utterly stupid. It's the stuff, you might as well be religious if you're going to believe that kind of stuff. But the beauty of travel through the universe, when we become enveloped in that E energy, is that, do you know how long it would take for us to go the 45, let's just say that with the edge of the known universe would be approximately 45 billion light years from wherever you are, because that's really all we can perceive. But how long would it take you to get there?
No time at all.
No time at all. Yeah, a photon of light experiences the same moment that it left that star. It is still in that moment when it reaches us, 40 billion light years thereafter, or in the case of the universe as we're proclaiming it, 13 to 15 billion light years thereafter. It's right. So speed is time, is distance over time. And if time simply exists, then you can travel any distance in no time. And so that's the only way we're going to be able to get anywhere. And as energy, then we can survive in any environment and don't need the bulk of a spaceship, which can never be accelerated to the speed of light. Even as you approximate the speed of light, first of all, just a stray hydrogen atom would destroy it. It'd be like a nuclear bomb when you you hit it. But it would take infinite energy to accelerate you to the speed of light. It would take more energy than is in the entire universe to accelerate a physical entity to that speed. So it's part of the issue of also going to Mars to carry the fuel that is necessary to take a spacecraft that is properly loaded with return fuel, for example, and enough water for 3 years, enough food for 3 years, and a protective habitat for 3 years, and backups of everything else. I mean, you'd have to send probably 300 spacecraft to Mars, and 3 years in advance of us actually trying to go there, you'd have to send like 300 spacecraft to Mars with nuclear power plants, solar power plants, batteries, distribution systems, a tools shop, a whole greenhouse kinds of environments, fuel manufacturing plants, water
And their
manufacturing
backups?
plants, oxygen manufacturing plants, backup for 2 or 3 backups for all of them, because you don't have even 15 minutes to repair one if one breaks, and it's part of what your survival is based on. Return spacecraft, all of this kind of stuff, habitats for people, transportation devices, shelters for solar flares, something to either to dig holes in the ground where you could actually live for short periods of time, or some kind of a manufacturing system that takes the soil, which, by the way, is exceedingly toxic, so the soil will kill you. But let's just pretend that they solve that problem, which I don't think is solvable, and you could make a mud hut if you could get water and out of all of this. Yeah, it just you're dealing with absurdities. So it isn't going to happen. And so the only reason it's being hyped by Elon Musk is he's got nothing else. He's really got nothing else. This is Tesla has gone like this and it's like this. And Tesla reached its like this because it received some $30 billion worth of grants and contracts and benefits from the U.S. government and state governments. And Tesla's lost its market share and everything else. And the fact is that SpaceX got nowhere to go. There's no value in establishing an outpost on the moon, and we're never going to live on Mars. So, and if he wants to talk about multiplanetary, he sure as hell not going to Venus or Jupiter. So,
right, yeah.
Sorry, and so I'd try Mercury. There. That'd be fun, right? I might as well live on the sun. No,
burn up.
This what Albert Einstein perceived, both in E equals mc squared and the relativity of time, depending on the observer, which explains why Yahowah explains that creation took 6 24-hour days, and why we look back and it's close to 14 billion years. They're exactly the same amount of time. And what he demonstrated is in the proximity of great velocity or great energy or mass that time slows. We've now measured the rate that time slowed vis-a-vis someone at creation. It's 10 to the 12th power. You divide 14 billion years by 10 to the 12th power, and what do you get?
Six 24-hour days.
Yeah.
6 days.
Yeah, I was very, very smart. So there you go. So that man up there, he is one of my heroes. He opened the floodgates of understanding, which we're just beginning to capitalize upon. So why do you think, Kevin, that I have posted something on Greenland?
Greenland?
Yep, that's Greenland right there. Yeah, it's
the 51st state.
That's the dumpster. That is correct. You know, we have forgotten because of all of the utter stupidity of Donald Trump. I mean, blockading Venezuela and his continued disastrous flip-flops regarding Ukraine and Russia, his ICE Gestapo harassing Hispanics, his total violation of the U.S. Constitution. We have this tendency to forget his initial idiocy. But if you recall, there were 3 candidates that he was certain, absolutely he was certain. He told us it's going to happen, that we're going to have 3 51st states. He's never been very good at math. That would be the first 51st, right. 52nd, and 53rd. And within Canada, I think it would be 8 or 9 by itself. But nonetheless, that math was never his strong suit. So one of his professors thinks he's the dumbest student I ever had. He was a C and D student. But
I think his mother said the same thing.
Yeah, mother said the same thing. Well, his, I'm going to save you 1,500% on prescription drugs. Yeah, that would be that's Trumpian. Yeah, he is the guy that says that we have all of this benefit now the government has raised and tariffs that we're going to be able to reduce taxes. Well, a tariff is a tax, pal. Okay, so the reason I have this up is that he promised that Greenland was going to be the 51st state, didn't he?
Mhm.
Then he said that Canada is going to be the 51st state, didn't he?
Mhm.
Then he said that Panama is going to be the 51st state, didn't he? Do you see any movement in any one of those three countries to jump at the opportunity to be a vassal of Donald J. Trump?
Aren't the Qataris
No.
going to sponsor a Trump Tower in all these places?
I think so. And then didn't he say that he's going to turn Gaza into resorts?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah. It'd be nice.
We just have a tendency to forget how we've had a year of insanity with Trump, and it's his survival mechanism is to be so mean, so vicious that people cower and they're afraid to criticize him. And it's one episode of chaos after another, so that today's chaos is such that you forget about yesterday's chaos. So, yeah, the other day when he recognized that Russia has trumped him, and Russia and China have both trumped him in Venezuela. You can't invade Venezuela without China saying, "Okay, you want to take our economic partner that we've invested $75 billion in because you rejected them. You want to, and we have a multi-year deal with them on oil. You want to take them away from us, then we're just not going to ship you any more products. So you're out of computers, you're out of electronics, you're out of all of the things that you need to manufacture the few products you still manufacture in the United States, and we're not going to send you any more rare earths, which means your military comes crashing to a halt. You're just done. And by the way, we're going to sell our T-bills, which means you'll be in default and bankrupt in about 15 minutes. So set your timer for that. So you do that, and China says it's game, set, match, it's over. And while all this was happening, the United States was trying to destroy Russia through Venezuela, through Ukraine. Then Russia said, "Okay, we played this game before, but maybe you don't remember." And so they sent all manner of hypersonic missiles into Venezuela, where they're focused on American ships and American cities. You want to invade Venezuela, big boy? Step right up. This is the consequence of it. And so since he's stymied there and just having the boys bob up and down, and I never knew that a aircraft carrier was actually a speedboat eradication service, so that we can go and bomb speedboats. What he did is he bombed Nigeria, because he could get by with bombing Nigeria, and he had a ready excuse. Oh man, ISIS is killing Christians in Nigeria. Is there any ISIS in Nigeria?
No, they're all.
What is the Islamic terrorist group called in Nigeria that has been tormenting little girls and Christians for the last 30 years? You know the name?
Boko Haram.
Boko Haram. Boko Haram is the name of that. So if I know it, why doesn't he know it? He's the president of the damn United States. I didn't decide I'm going to go fly planes and to go bomb people. ISIS was created by the United States. It's the product of the Awakening program from Petraeus and Bush and the U.S. military. We created the Islamic State. So you ought to know it. And Jolani is the head of the Islamic State. And buddy, handsome guy, but fighter. Love this guy. We give him a new bottle of cologne when he comes to the White House. Yep. So you ought to know who the Islamic State is. You sponsored them. And Boko Haram is the killer organization in Nigeria. But guess what? He didn't bomb Nigeria because of ISIS or Boko Haram or Muslims killing Christians or anything of that. You know why I picked on Nigeria? The day that he announced that he was going to bomb Nigeria, what did the Nigerians announce just hours before?
Oh, probably oil. They were gonna.
Close. Petrodollar. That they were going to accept currencies in addition to the dollar for the sale of oil. And this is the reason that the United States bombed Nigeria. We are so frantic to maintain the petrodollar status that we will destroy any country. Let me give you a great example of that. You ever hear of a guy named Muammar Gaddafi
Yep.
and a country called Libya?
Yep.
Well, you know why Libya was bombed into the Stone Age by the United States, and why now it is a completely failed country where the only product that they're actually have figured out a way to economize is slave trade, women as slaves. Why is Libya in that condition?
Because they created their own gold dinar.
That is correct.
For the entire continent of Africa.
Because Libya was the most prosperous country by far in Africa, by far. And Muammar Gaddafi had enough gold that he could create a gold-backed currency that African nations could use to avoid U.S. Subjugation and abuse. Totalitarianism by the United States over the petrodollar. And he said, you don't have to buy and sell in dollars. You can buy and sell in this gold-backed currency. And that is why Libya was bombed into the Stone Age. It is disgusting. The more you know about these countries, the worse it gets. So.
The Americans don't like you playing in their sandbox, and they think all the sandboxes are theirs.
The world is the American sandbox. That's when we started the Ukraine war, because we wanted the Russian sandbox. It has many, many valuable assets in the between gas, oil, and rare earths, uranium, and that sort of thing. And the entire purpose of the Ukrainian war was to do regime change, divide Russia into a bunch of rump states, and make certain that the U.S. could control it for economic reasons to satiate the oligarchs. So it's
not about just wanting it. It's about wanting it at a discount. We want a deal.
Yeah. What did Trump say when he was
deal with them?
Yeah. When Trump put the blockade around Venezuela and started playing pirate with now 3 tankers. Didn't he say we're taking our oil back?
Our
yes, oil.
Yeah.
So it's the U.S. is claiming that the world is theirs to plunder. It's like we're going back to Muhammad and Allah. This is the ugliest face on the planet. Maybe the dumbest woman on the planet. Maybe the most vile, representing the most disgusting institution on the planet. And if you could go up there too and open my comments there, it's a little bit blurry, but I would. I guess it's another one maybe that I may have done this on, but it is my view that the UN is the now as useless as the CIA, as the NSA, as counterproductive as MI6 is. It's become a totally reprehensible organization, maneuvering behind the scenes to control and plunder the world, particularly if they can destroy Israel. I had a friend of mine the other day. I was having dinner, and they were applauding the prophetic announcement of a terrorist state carved out of Israel. And I said, you don't ever utter that in my presence, and you should be ashamed that you even said it. But that is the principal goal of the UN, is to obliterate the state of Israel that they had a hand not in creating, but reestablishing after the Holocaust, because the British did such a disgusting job with the Balfour Declaration and reneging on every promise. And the Muslims were so vicious towards Israel. But the UN now is nothing but an anti-Semitic, anti-Israel terrorist organization that is populated by revolting morons like this one and the head of their international criminal court. It's just a bunch of jackasses.
And to this point, my only question to this lady is: does she know where the only place in the world where the UN exists? I mean,
where what exists
where the UN exists? It literally, on paper, it's all over, but it only has one little bitty piece of dirt that we gave them in New York, and so
Correct.
She wants to isolate the United States Okay, then where's the UN going to meet? I mean, are they going to move to Belgium? Are they going to pick up their big building and move to? I mean,
actually, Belgium is a vassal of the United States because we put our SWIFT trading mechanism there,
Mhm.
and we manipulate world currency and world economic order through Belgium. So Belgium is a vassal of the United States. Europe is a vassal of the United States. You know what we just did? When we dictated to the Germans that they could no longer buy cheap Russian gas, which they were paying about 25 cents on the dollar, maybe 20 cents on the dollar for Russian gas. And it ran their economy. It was what made Germany the economic engine of Europe. And we not only told them you can't do that anymore, and they were a vassal of the U.S., so they had to say, okay, we're not going to buy cheap oil. We said, you have to buy our oil, which we charged them about 10 times more for than they were buying the Russian oil. Then we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline so they couldn't renege on the deal and denied that we did it. But that was Biden that did that. And you know what we finally done? We bankrupt Germany. You know, the contract with Germany has always been that their businesses would always offer employment in Germany to Germans. They are now shutting down the last of the Volkswagen plants. Volkswagen is the leader producer because of all of the various brands that they own. They're shutting them down one after another. The German automakers are shutting down, and BASF, the great chemical manufacturing company, probably the number one industrial company in Germany, doing the same thing that Volkswagen is doing, moving out of Germany and all German jobs. Guess where they're moving?
China.
Wow.
They're moving to China. And the United States caused that by at the top of the U.S., you have a number of just absolute irrational, ignorant dunderheads that are grossly immoral and can't realize that there is a consequence for every cause. You know, we turned Russia into the most formidable military might on this planet by sanctioning them and then declaring a war against them. And we destroyed the value of the U.S. economy and our ability to function as the reserve currency when we stole $300 billion of sovereign Russian assets. We showed that the dollar now is a weapon. These morons are so grossly immoral. And this is America. If you're a patriotic American, you need to have your head examined. We are exceedingly evil in what we're doing. So anyway, I thought you ought to know. I happen to like this image. I think this is one our good friend Matt is created on this particular case. But it is true that the books of YadaYahowah, like this, the books of YadaYahowah have become the tree of knowledge. It is something that Yahweh knew was going to exist 6,000 years ago. He wrote of it. And then 2,700 years ago, he wrote that the Choder would be the author of the books of knowledge. And if you want to find your way back to God, that is the way. Oh, I just get a kick out of this. Do you know why we're going back to the moon? After more than 50 years, why are we going back to the moon? You know?
The only strategic thing I can think of is to keep China off the moon. But other than that, I mean, I don't know what their excuse for going back is, but
no, we're not going to put weapon systems on the moon. Or maybe the purpose of the Trump battleships will be, to circulate the moon and have the big guns shoot down
the Golden Fleet,
those godless Chinese as they approach the moon. No, we are not going to restrict the Chinese from having bases on the moon. And I'm not even sure the Chinese want to have a people on the moon. I think they want to mine the moon. There are some things on the moon that would be very, very effective in terms of energy production going forward. I think it's a very unique form of hydrogen, but memory slips me at the moment. No, the only reason we're going back to the moon is because just as in the 1960s, the U.S. decided that it couldn't allow those godless commies and the USSR to beat us again, because they put up not only Sputnik as the first satellite, but Gregorian as the first as the first. Yeah, you're on first name basis with him. I don't know him that well, but you must be older than me. I don't know. But anyway, you had to put on Yuri around the Earth. That they beat us, and it was embarrassing for the United States because it was capitalism versus communism. So JFK, who I actually like, I think he's an interesting fellow, a pretty bright fellow, by comparison to the current inhabitant of the White House. He was brilliant. But he wanted to prove that America's capitalist system was better than the communist system. So he came up with the idea we're going to put a man on the moon and bring him back safely to the Earth. And that decade, and in 1969, we actually did that very thing. And then we went back like 7 more times, and people just go, oh, right. What's the point of this? It got so boring that one of the guys brought a golf club. Probably the dumbest thing you probably could have done, but brought a golf club up to the moon. I like golf, but I'm not paying for a round on the moon. And so we just said 50 some odd years ago, that's enough. That's a waste of time. And there wasn't any purpose other than for us to brag. Boy, we're great. That was it. Bragging rights. It's like saying, okay, we have to go climb Everest because it's there. Okay, the moon is there. Let's go put footsteps on it. But what do we get for those footsteps? Nothing. Yeah. And now it's the Chinese. The Chinese have a really robust space program now. The Chinese are beating us in every possible way. And the Chinese are going to beat us even in this case. They know exactly what they're trying to do with the moon. And it happens to be very different than what the U.S. is trying to do. We just want bragging rights that we can get back there. But here, this is said, a historic space milestone awaits. Now, how can it be a historic space milestone when the milestone is sending humans further from the Earth than anyone has traveled in over 50 years? Because, well, we traveled that exact same path 50 years ago, which means it can't be a historic space milestone, can it?
No.
Maybe AI was deployed to write the headline.
Right.
But the only reason we're going is because the Chinese have announced that they're going to do so, and we need to beat those godless commie Chinese because our egos won't handle anything less than that. But no, it is a waste of time. One of the reasons that there are a number of reasons humans can't live on the moon. One of those reasons is the regula. It is electrostatic and so sharp that you can't get it off of your apparel. It destroys everything. The electronics, the aluminum that shields these things, their spacesuits everything gets torn to shreds with this regula. And it's electrostatic, which means you can't get rid of it. And an astronaut to breathe it, it's deadly. And it's contaminated with all modes of toxic material. And so the regula alone is deadly. And then to be on the moon, the only way you can survive on the moon is in a cave. Or you have to build your own cave because of the cosmic radiation. So what's the point? And no matter where you're on the moon, you're going to have 14 and a half days of total darkness where you can't generate any energy. How are you going to survive that? Whoops. So what's the point? We are foolish, us humans. God has offered us a way to get off this planet, and you can capitalize on it by reading the books of YadaYahowah. Join us on the Shabuah harvest if you're really diligent between now and then, or you can be among those who gets a second chance at Eden, and we will equip to over 1,000 years to prepare you for this opportunity. But you have to earn Yahweh's trust, and that means you need to listen to him, be observant, and engage, being productive in his sight to ever have this opportunity to go to the moon like this or any place else. I happen to be fond of the moon, but and I may go there someday, but not in a spacesuit.
No, no. There's a, like you said, I think that when you see everything that the universe has to offer, that our own little, rock right outside our own backyard, okay, yep, I was here, and then you move on,
This is going to be home base for us for, I think, actually, many, many hundreds of billions of years. Ultimately, this universe will die of entropy. Everything will go out. And so God is going to create a new universe long before that happens. And we're going to get off and have an opportunity to explore this one. And there are clearly the opportunity to create the estimate was, as of a month ago, that there's 2 trillion galaxies. It was 2 billion galaxies not long before that, but now it's 2 trillion galaxies. And the most recent analysis of Webb's photographs is that, it could be more like 4 to 40 trillion galaxies. And that's only to the threshold that we can currently perceive. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. This is just a simple statement. Actions speak louder than words. You can apologize all you like, but if your actions don't change, your words are meaningless. With YAHOWAH, it is that your actions speak as loudly as your words. You have to be right with your words. But if your devotion to engaging and working on behalf of YAHOWAH does not follow and is not consistent with your words, if you are want to have words which are mixed with truth and lies, and then you go and you say, well, here's my site, and I'm going to hide that site, but I'm going to have another site that disparages things, but you just can't do that. You can't be like Adam was in the garden, where you don't engage. So God is very much into talk the talk and walk the walk. And I don't think there was anybody that exemplified talking the talk and walking the walk more than Moshe and Dode. But that is what's required if you're going to engage with God. You got to be able to talk the talk and walk the walk. And you can't talk the talk unless you've listened to YAHOWAH and closely examined his testimony for a very, very long time and have been exceedingly thoughtful about it.
Yeah, you have to know the material before you want to get out there and start mixing it up with people and trying to help other folks, because you're not helping. Being from the show me state, I can understand this action speak louder than words. I kind of grew up with it and live it. That you will always know folks by what they do and not what they say. So I can definitely get behind this understanding.
Yeah, a lot of hypocrisy out there with the people who say one thing and do another. That happens to be the nature of religion and politics, by the way. Now, this is another just a galactic theme. This is fairly amazing scenario where there would be galaxy upon galaxy that is all strung together in kind of a free form wave action, if you will. I don't think that's not a chain, because a chain you would have to have the closed loops, but it is a waveform. And to think that there are galaxies out there that are interacting with each other in a wave form. This one, they say it stretches over 13 million light years. 13 million. The nearest, again, to put in perspective, the nearest star to Earth is 4 light years away. And it would take us at our present highest travel speed 70,000 years to get there. And this little thing out here, this little wave of galaxies stretches over 13 million light years from one end to the other. It is one of the things that is very unique about the Milky Way, which is what we call our galaxy. And that's because it appears that way in night skies, is that it is in a bubble. There is nothing near the Milky Way. And these are all interacting galaxies. If you are in a galaxy that is near another galaxy, which is the majority of galaxies. Life is not possible in either of the two galaxies because of the way they interact with each other. So you have to have a galaxy that is a bubble even to have life. And then you have to be in the right arm or distance from the center of that galaxy for life to exist. Too far out, and the stars are not large enough to create the supernova kind of explosions that create the heavier elements that the rocky planets and life is comprised of. And too far in, and there's too many cosmic explosions of these things for life to survive. But the same thing is true even with interacting galaxies. So we are in a very unique situation with the Milky Way being distant from other galaxies. It's in a bubble, and we're in the perfect distance from the center of the Milky Way galaxy, but not too far out for life to exist. And we happen to just be lucky, and we got the perfect size and nature of the sun. We're neither red nor blue, but yellow, and the middle size, and life can function around those.
Yeah, I liken it to the Earth as a crib, and then with this bubble being the room that the crib is in, in the house. So it's the nice safe spot for whenever, for the kids to grow up, and when they get bigger, then they can go out and play in the rest of the universe.
Yeah, my view is just go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh, this free form. I wonder that if it only appears free form from our perspective. Maybe it's more of a double helix formation or something like that we're just so close to it, or the angle we're able to perceive it at, that it's probably not a free form, that it's not something that's just happening. I think it's something that has a definite purposefulness to it, that waveform.
Think for a moment how far that has to be away for us to first see it through the Webb and infrared. I mean, the reason that Hubble doesn't see these things is Hubble is receiving visible light, and that's just a tiny percentage of the light in the universe. Most is infrared. So Webb was designed in infrared. For Webb to be able to picture that, think about how, and that is a photograph of something that is over 13 million light years in length. How far does that have to be away from us? I mean, we're talking about in the range of many, many billions of light years away from us. And therefore, what you're looking at doesn't exist.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. It doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
Not by time standards.
No, it doesn't even exist.
Yes.
The light, if the light left that thing 30 billion light years ago, it doesn't exist anymore. It's likely gone.
Same concept of them talking about Betelgeuse going supernova, in Orion's belt, and how it'll be this spectacular thing in the sky. And I'm like, if we see that, it's already happened. It's so far away.
It happened. Very, very. It's an Orion. It's Betelgeuse is a very, very volatile star. But it would have happened a long time ago. Long time ago. Yeah, what we're witnessing, everything you see in the night sky is history. The closest thing that you have to being current is the moon. The moon is delayed about 1.3 seconds, but everything else in the night sky is history. So it's a very different thing. The one way that you view the Earth as our crib, I actually now view the Earth as Eden. That Eden is a microcosm of the Earth, and the whole story of Eden with Gan Eden. Gan means a protective and enclosed garden. We get back to the garden on Sukkah. Sukkah also means protective and enclosed garden. And so what God is telling us is that ideal conditions without religion, politics, conspiracy, anti-Semitism, militancy, in Eden long ago is what he's going to fashion for us to return to on Sukkah here in less than 8 years. But that the Earth is like Eden. It is a environment that has been created that is shielded and protective and enclosed, such that it is conducive to life. And So it was specifically designed for what we are enjoying. And this is our little spaceship. And you don't like this spaceship, then, well, I'm going to tell you, Elon Musk is not going to provide one that is better.
No. No.
He's, by the way, getting a God complex. He has now said that that the SpaceX, his new spaceship, is equivalent to the conception of life on the planet.
Oh, I saw that post. Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Boy, he's getting a
it's
little big for his
important.
britches, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. So CERN is now publishing what God said to us. Now, he revealed this 3,500 years ago, but he would have made the announcement regarding this 14 billion years ago. So CERN physics have just discovered that fragile matter, and matter is fragile, forms after the chaos, not during the chaos. Now, this is part of our difficulty, scientific difficulty of trying to age the universe, because prior to the existence of matter, which is a form of energy, a diminished form of energy, prior to the existence of energy becoming matter, time simply is. It cannot be measured because it does not flow. So you cannot age the creative aspect of the universe prior to matter coalescing from energy, because matter, when you become a material being, time flows. Prior to that, it just simply exists. So that's the first aspect of this that is telling when you want to understand where we are in the overall flow of things. The second is that YAHOWAH specifically said that when he released light into the universe, it was chaotic. Tofu, Kofu, it was chaos was everywhere, and chaos has to be everywhere because there has to be random opportunities for different possible outcomes. There's no free will without chaos, and so he says that there was chaos, and then following the chaos, he begins to describe the formation of matter. And so his view, YAHOWAH's description of what he said during the creative narrative is that this very thing, that first there was energy. This was in a very chaotic form. And then after the chaos came matter. And because matter really is organized energy. Matter is organized energy. It's a different form. It's energy in a different state.
Yeah, I've often heard Tesla explain it as just a vibrational difference. That as energy is, for lack of a better word, more energized, it is vibrating faster than we perceive it vibrating. And as it slows, that because you have this idea that a wall is solid or something is solid, but all the electrons and everything in it are still moving. It's just vibrating at a slower state that we're able to perceive it as solid.
The comparison of the size of the universe and the nearest star being 4 light years away, and the Milky Way galaxy over 100 light years in diameter. The space between things in our solar system or in the universe is similar to the space between things in matter. That what we perceive as solid and as matter is actually 99.999999999% void. So if you look out and you perceive our solar system as little dots of matter in a sea of empty space, or relatively empty space, that's the same nature of these molecules, atoms that form matter, is that it's almost all void, empty space. And that the connections that the strong force and the weak force and these sorts of things that hold together and bind, create the expansion as well as holding together and bind, are everything is in movement. So they are indeed oscillating and vibrating, and everything's in motion. And it is all comprised of various forms of energy that coalesce to create matter. And it's important to recognize that's what things, how they exist, because the religious concept in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, that there is a bodily resurrection and that your nature in either heaven or hell is going to be physical. It's just completely incompatible with reality.
Mm-hmm. Say no, flipper.
I'm suggesting here that the blowfish is the gateway drug for the dolphins. Yeah, I don't know how many people know this, but it is true. Dolphins are really a lot of fun. I've swum with dolphins in the Florida facilities where, you know, they have dolphins that you can ride and play
Mm-hmm.
with for hours on end, and you pay for the experience to be, you know, 2 or 3 people, a family, playing with dolphins for an hour. And I've done that, and that was really fun. But the thing that I've done with dolphins that is even more fun is I've gone off. Sometimes you see Buck Island when we're doing the ocean studio out there. Gone out to Buck Island and Cara, which was our yacht, which we've subsequently sold. But when we went out there, there many times when we're out there, there would be a pod of dolphins. Males, females, and young dolphins that would swim all around our boat. You could jump in the water and you could swim and play with wild dolphins. And
Mm-hmm.
they are really inquisitive. They're fun to be around. They're come up right to you and allow you to touch them. And they want to play. They want the interaction. It was interesting that during the time of COVID, when people stopped going out to sea as often and interacting with the dolphins
Mm-hmm.
actually brought peace offerings to docks. They would take a fish and throw it up on the dock, or a piece of coral or a sponge, and they'd throw it up on the dock and say, you know, we miss you.
Come on, guys.
Let's have some interaction. But here there is a narcotic that is in a lot of defense mechanisms have this in nature, but there's a narcotic, and the dolphins do pass it around, and they do get intoxicated with the narcotic.
Wow.
So
It was.
Be careful. Don't chew on the pufferfish.
Don't chew on the puffer. What was the Finding Nemo? It seemed like the sea turtles were the ones that were probably using the most drugs in Finding Nemo. He just had that surfer talk. You know, that it wasn't a real productive sea turtle. Anyway, never thought of dolphins.
I was never an expert on Finding Nemo.
No.
I must
There's
have
one
missed
thing
that one. Yeah.
I do well. It's multimedia. So
Okay, that's it's nice to be versed in it. The
Something.
Babylonian bee. You know, sometimes the Babylonian bee is very, very good at sarcastic humor, but there's times that you wonder what in the world they're talking about. But anyway, go to your church, you heathen, which I don't know. I don't understand the byline, but the fact of the matter is, there is no book associated with God called the Bible. Bible is from what Hebrew term? You know?
Babel.
Babel. That's
Babel,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah, Babel. It means with the Lord. The Lord is Satan. Babel is the Hebrew word for Babylon, which God tells you to leave, which ought to be a good clue. And it means to intermix and to commingle truth and lies, religion and politics, that sort of thing, to confuse and confound. So Bible is a really, really, really bad term, particularly when you take books that don't belong, like the New Testament and the books that were satanically inspired that are still associated with the books that God actually inspired. Very bad thing, very bad title. So God does not have a Bible. If you're using the term Bible, you are confused and you're confounded. And holy, do you know what word? That's also a Hebrew word. Do you know what it's based on?
Choli.
Chole means to be, to be diseased, to be infirmed. So it means to be sickened by Holy Bible. It means to be sickened by the intermixing and commingling of that which confuses and confounds. So dear to my chest, no, that is exactly the opposite of what God wants. God has a Torah, and the Torah, which means teaching and guidance, permeates his prophets. The Torah is prophetic, and the prophets contain Torah. So he has a singular message conveyed through the Torah and prophets. And he never uses the term scripture, which is Latin-based, and he never uses the term chole or holy unless it is to demean it. And he uses the term Babel a lot, but it's also used in a derogatory tone. So that's a very bad idea. I also said on a program not long ago that church doesn't actually appear even in the rotten Christian New Testament. There's no word for church, not even close. Church is not a translation or a transliteration of ecclesia. And the term that used in the Christian New Testament is ecclesia. It is from ek and ecclesia. Ek means out, and ecclesia means call. So call out. It is not to. So no, so there is absolutely there is absolutely no word even remotely akin to church. The actual basis of the name came from Church, which is the goddess of the Germanic religions, daughter of the sun is Church. We get a halo and circuit and circus from Church. It's the word that we get, all derive the English word for circus, circuit, and circle. Circular reasoning, for example, comes from church, but there is no church, and that line that is so essential to Christianity cannot be found in any manuscript of any one of the books of the Christian New Testament prior to Eusebius and Constantine in the 4th century, which is upon this rock I will build my church. That line does not appear in Mark, does not appear in Matthew, in any one of the pre-Constantine manuscripts dating to the 2nd, 3rd, and early 4th century BCE. And after Constantine and Eusebius, there's just almost no correlation between what was written and what they wanted to promote. But that line, upon this rock I will build my church, was actually written by Eusebius on behalf of Constantine in the 4th century. So that's how far off you all are on going to church and carrying a holy Bible. Every aspect of that is intellectually insane. He just says, That's what we have you as part of this program, Kevin. It's
for my. I'm not. Okay. I'll work on my segues a little better. I'll learn how to segue a little better.
Segue. Hey, remember back when the Segway was going to be the future of transportation?
Oh yeah.
Well, they had
we had entire security staffs. They bought hundreds of them.
Hundreds of Segways. Your security staff. Wow.
At several of our customers. Yeah, they were all over Kansas City for several years.
Oh yeah, Segways. Yeah, that a crazy thing that you stand on and and boy, you never even see one anymore. I mean, maybe you could buy one in an antique store, could you? The future of transportation.
Oh no, I know they had a lot of broken arms and injuries with them.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, they didn't solve that problem, but yeah, Segway.
I don't have enough level ground. I don't have enough level ground out here to have a Segway. I don't know that they're good for
I tried one. It didn't seem to be superior to walking to me, but there was an advantage of the bicycle, which is that momentum had a tendency to keep you upright. The whole concept of a bicycle was so much better than the Segway in terms of its ability to stay upright. Well, I think we probably universed ourselves in this program to death, but I do like the pictures, and I like the opportunity one day that we will be out there and doing that. This next statement, if you read what's on to the right, he says, I categorically reject the recognition of Qatar as a state. Qatar is not a state. It's a family business, a mafia state, which is achieved as a result of bribery and corruption. This is because the government of Qatar, and which is Qatar, is denouncing the creation of a Somaliland carved out of Somalia. First of all, Israel was thus far, I think, the only nation that has recognized Somaliland carved out of Somalia. While Israel shouldn't be in the business of recognizing Goyim political enterprises, particularly those of a Muslim persuasion, and that is really, it shows that Israel still doesn't pay any attention to what YAHOWAH instructed them to do pursuant to the ways, political and religious ways of the Goyim. But the fact is that Somalia is like the Sudan. You can't screw that up. I mean, there you get to a point where things are so bad that you can't make them worse. I mean, we figured out how to make Libya worse. We figured out how to make Iraq work. We figured out how to make Afghanistan worse. We figured out a way to make Syria work. We figured out a way to make Ukraine worse. We figured out a way to make Vietnam worse. The United States is really good at making somewhat bad situations and sometimes really bad situations much, much worse. We're good at that.
Indeed.
But you can reach, there is a bottom to this. Somalia and Sudan, right? They are the example. They are the exemplar of, it just doesn't get worse than that.
Aren't they like the lowest IQ on the African continent?
No, I actually think that's on the west side, but there are Islamic countries in Africa where the average IQ is about 45 to 50.
Wow.
And so, I mean, that's half of wit. You're not even a half-tard at that point, at that kind of an IQ level. But yes, there are 45s to 50s. And Somalia happens to, well, you just look at the Somalians in Minnesota or the Ilar Omar of Somalia being in Congress. I mean, they're half-wits. I guess that is a half-wit if you're 50 IQ, right? With 100 being used to be normal. I don't think 100 IQ is normal anymore. I think it's probably in the 85 range would be more normal today because what we've done to corrupt people's thinking. But what he is saying is that that when Qatar says, I denounce your recognition of Somaliland, and again, I would make the point that there is nothing you could do that would be worse than Somalia as it is. And so if you have a breakaway state, no matter how corrupt it is, it can't be worse than Somalia. Now, but the issue here is something that very few people have recognized. I've said it now, back in the Shattering Myths days when I had IQ al-Rasuli as my guest on those programs, and which IQ al-Rasuli means I am the thinking messenger, because Rasuli is the Arabic word for messenger. Muhammad claimed to be the Rasuli of Allah. And IQ means I'm a thinking messenger as opposed to a illiterate, dumb-witted messenger as was Muhammad. But IQ al-Rasuli was my regular guest on that syndicated program called Shattering Myths. And on it, I would always refer to Islam as a criminal enterprise. That's what it was. It was Muhammad's way of robbing people. He was exceedingly good at being a thief. And if it wasn't for thievery, there would be no Islam. The opening act of Islam is Muhammad, and the Quran verifies this, robbing a Quraysh caravan. The Quraysh was his own kin. And he robbed them, enslaved them, plundered them, ransomed them. But it was a vicious attack at Badr. The Quran's 8th surah is all about it. It's called stealing is legal and good, is the name of the surah. It makes stealing an integral part of Islam, and it validates killing, and it makes killing an integral part of Islam. In fact, the 8th surah says that there's only two types of Muslims: those who have died killing for Allah, and those who will die killing for Allah. And that plunder is all good if you're stealing for for Muhammad and Allah, you can steal all you want. And so long as you give Muhammad, my guy, my Rasul, 20% of the cut, steal all you want. Enslave, sure. Slave trade, fine. Human trafficking, all good with Allah. And what that means is that the most decadent of human behaviors were sanctioned by Allah and perpetrated by Muhammad, which means that Islam was begun. Battle of Badr is the beginning of Islam. Islam was begun as a criminal enterprise. It is exactly what Qatar is now. And Islam has never grown beyond being a criminal enterprise. You can rally all you want for the religion, but when you come to understand it, which I would encourage you to do by reading the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, which are presented throughout the website at YadaYahowah.com. They're all free. They average 825 pages apiece. This is just one of them. But if you read Goddamn Religion, you will come to understand for certain exactly what Islam is, and it is, in fact, a criminal enterprise.
Do you know who else is into stealing?
What's
Hearts? Little Miss Cara.
Oh,
She's
Cara.
into stealing hearts.
Okay, well, this is not the co-host that introduced the show. This is Cara, a younger version and a girly version of Wookiee. We will get one day having Cara and Wookiee do a show together and introduce the program. But at this point, Cara's a little young for co-hosting. So that's a pretty bold statement, but it's irrefutable. No one has ever refuted anything in Goddamn Religion. The 5 volumes of it, 4,200 pages of evidence, all brought out of the Islamic scriptures. My sole sources are the 5 oldest books in Islam, and I present the entire Quran, rearranged in chronological order, set into the context of Muhammad's life through the Sunnah, the Hadith. The book is irrefutable because if you were to try to challenge anything in the book, you're undermining the credibility of the Quran and Hadith, and that's all there is to Islam. So it is irrefutable, and what it proves is that not only is Islam a death cult, but that it was conceived as a criminal enterprise and remains that.
There's no refuting that. I think you can look throughout the Muslim world and not see one positive, even with the wealth of not Qatar. What they build the islands out there, Arab Emirates and all.
Oh
of them,
yes,
yeah. They like to show off their wealth with building islands and all the whole nine. It's still built on slavery. It's still built on everything that Islam goes for.
Yes, it's the workers are all slaves. That the Muslims don't work. The Muslims didn't work in Muhammad's day either. That's why they became terrorists. They stole their wealth. They didn't create wealth. Islam has never created wealth. It is very good at plundering wealth. This is something that bothers me a great deal. There are so many, and it's now the shrill voice of the Candace Owens and the Nick Fuentes and Tucker Ridiculouson screaming that the United States is funding Israel and they shouldn't be funding Israel. America first, death to the Jews. The 3.3 billion, which by the way isn't even a rounding error. That takes place between 9 o'clock in the morning and 9:01 in the morning is about how long it takes the United States to go through $3.3 billion. When you're $38 trillion in debt, 3.3 billion isn't even worth a sneeze. But the 3.3 billion, not only is there a reciprocal for that, which is that it can only be taken in military hardware made in the United States that Israel must improve on. And then everything that Israel does to improve on it has to be given freely to the United States. So the R&D, the most effective R&D arm for the U.S. military for this $3.3 billion worth of military hardware, and they're paying for the innovations that the Israelis provide, which are far greater than what we do even in DARPA. But that's not the point I want to make. Do you know why the United States gives $3.3 billion? Why that number exists in military hardware?
The Sinai. Well, I don't know about the number, but it was over the Sinai. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, back in the 6 Days War, the Egyptians lost the Sinai to the Israelis. And in war, if you have declared war against somebody and you rally all of these your fellow allies to destroy a country, and you've openly declared that this war is to destroy Israel, and you've rallied all the allies around the Middle East to destroy Israel, and you lose because Egypt lost the Sinai, and had the United States said, "Okay, that's you," who was, and the United States wasn't even an ally of Israel at the time, and Israel wasn't using, for the most part, American weapons unless they could buy them on the black market at the time, 1967. The U.S. intervened not to protect Israel, not on behalf of Israel, on behalf of Egypt. And it told Israel that if they continued to do this, that it would go from a quasi-neutral party to an adversary of Israel. And that Israel could not conquer Cairo, could not conquer Damascus, of which it would have done in that 1967 war, and would have controlled Damascus and all of Syria and all of Egypt, which would have been in the world's best interest. But the United States said no. And beyond that, you have to disgorge Sinai, which had no value to anybody except as a buffer. And the reason was that theretofore, Egypt was a client of the Russians. They bought their military hardware from Russia, and the United States CIA and government and the elite in the United States wanted Egypt to be forced into buying American weaponry. And the only way to make that happen and to sidestep the Soviet Union at the time was to control Israel and to dictate what Israel could or could not do. And so the United States made a deal with Israel, said, if you leave Sinai and return it to Egypt, Egypt will buy American weapons. And from that point on, we will reward you with $3.3 billion worth of military benefit for you leaving the Sinai, which would replace the deterrent factor of Sinai. Be lots of strings attached to that. But no one has realized what the United States got out of it, which was a client state in Egypt. And that's what the United States got out of that deal. And to welch on it now and say we're not going to continue it would put the United States as just one more untrustworthy move by a nation that does many things which are untrustworthy. But military aid to Israel is a deal.
Yeah, what does Israel say? Hey, we want the Sinai back. We're going to go take it. I mean,
all of those agreements had many things that could not happen. Like the Egypt could not militarize the Sinai, but it has, and the United States has not forced Egypt to live within their means. And by the way, Egypt is now buying Russian military hardware. And most of the world is now buying Russian military hardware because it doesn't come with the same strings that American hardware does, where you either capitulate to America being the dominant factor in the world, and it's our sandbox, and your sandbox is our sandbox, or we won't supply you. So, but anyway, it's a deal that the United States made a fortune on, far more than $3.3 billion a year, by being the arms manufacturer for Egypt and other nations as a result of it. What they're basically saying here is that that there is no motivation anymore for Russia to negotiate a peace with NATO, the US, EU, or Ukraine. And that's because it's gobbling up territory at a prodigious rate. They'll soon be to the Dnieper River. They'll soon be surrounding Odessa. The territory that was comprised mostly of ethnic Russians who were still speaking Russia, who wanted to be associated with Russia, has been taken at very little, relatively little loss of Russian lives, with total and complete Russian civilian support. It's over. The Ukrainians are losing close to 150,000 troops through desertion and through death a month. I mean, there is nothing left of Ukrainian defenses, and there's nothing Ukraine can do. The war that the U.S. and NATO started going back 20 years ago against Russia failed. And the sad part of it is it had no chance to succeed, because even if the United States and NATO collectively had bludgeoned Russia into submission by using Ukrainians as cannon fodder, wielding Western weapons, the Russians would have responded with a nuclear attack. They're not going to just go over and let you eviscerate them. They were going. That was the only response that Russia would have chosen, which means if you win, you lose, and winning was grossly immoral anyway. What right do we have to steal what's theirs? And that's what the whole purpose of the war was. And this war did not start when Russia invaded Ukraine. It started when the U.S. announced that Ukraine would be part of NATO and we would deploy missile systems right outside of Moscow. That's when this war began. And then we upped the ante when we overthrew, regime changed the government of Ukraine that was pro-Russian and replaced it in a coup that we orchestrated. And it just went downhill from there. So this is a war that the U.S. started foolishly and lost. And now there is no reason anymore. The Russians have been completely open to negotiating a settlement in this war with the Russian-speaking Russian ethnicities reincorporated back into Russia, which is what they want. They vote 95-5 for that to occur. And it's already occurred up and down the eastern part of Ukraine. So they're never going to get that back. And he said, that will be enough. We'll take that. And you agree that Ukraine will never be a threat to Russia again. It'll never be part of NATO, and you're not going to use it as a military base for the West, and we'll all be good. And we've turned that down every which way. To now, over 2 million Ukrainians have died as a result. But we pushed it now to the point, because America is so susceptible, as is Europe, to propaganda. The propaganda of the elites that want war. Now it's too late. There is no settlement of this. Pending complete surrender of Ukraine, surrender of NATO, and the removal of the Zelensky government. And it's not really a government anymore. He's not an elected figure. He's a bribed a thug, personally confiscating billions of dollars. He's going to move to Israel, where they have they protect anybody that is Jewish ethnicity, no matter what horrible crimes they have committed.
Right.
So there is no solution for this war now other than complete surrender. And one of the things I do is every day I watch the battle lines move constantly towards the West. There are a number of YouTube channels that present this brilliantly based upon verifiable information. It's, how they verify now where the battle lines are and who controls what in Ukraine?
The flag game that they play, they run their guys out with a flag and they put the flag out, and then they have the drone come over and show that, hey, we're in this Russians are in this portion of the city, or now it's Ukrainians in this portion of the city. They
Yeah,
play
that's part
the
of
flag
it.
game.
Yeah, it's also just the videos on cell phones that are shot by ordinary people in those communities. And you put it together, and it's very easy to see where the Ukrainians are, where the Russians are. And so, and it's the Ukrainians are getting slaughtered in this war, and the Russians are perpetrating it with great discipline and effectiveness. And in the process, Russia has proved that you don't need the United States. You can be completely sanctioned in every which way by the United States, and your economy can flourish. And if you're attacked by the United States militarily, which is, this is a proxy war where the United States declared war on Russia. You don't know that your government declared war on Russia. They did. And Russia won. Russia now outproduces the United States on the kinds of things that matter in a war zone, with artillery shells and rifles and bullets and drones, and their missiles now are vastly superior to the United States. So Russia, where it matters, is more advanced than the United States, and far better equipped to fight a war, a conventional war, and better equipped to fight a nuclear war than the United States. Either way, a nuclear war or a conventional war between Russia and the United States, and Russia beats the United States. They don't want to fight a war with the United States. They don't want to fight a war with Europe, but it's been perpetrated upon them. And the stupidity of the whole thing is that not only was that grossly ignorant, grossly immoral, grossly irrational for us to use the Ukraine to attack and destroy Russia so we could confiscate their wealth, but the fact is that you can't win that war, because if you could win a conventional war against Russia, which NATO and Europe and the US have now lost, but if you did win it, they would destroy you with a nuclear attack. And so this was really, really stupid. You look at the United States. How did we do against the Viet Cong?
We lost.
We lost to the Viet Cong, correct? How did we do against the Taliban?
We lost also.
We lost. How did we do against the Houthis?
We liked watching them dance, and then they kicked our ass.
They did. They kicked our ass. So the United States has made a terrible situation worse in Libya and Syria and the Sudan and Somalia and in Iraq. And we flat out lost to the Viet Cong, the Taliban, and the Houthis. And so you think that you're going to beat the Russians?
Right.
Only in propaganda and utter delusions.
But I Trump say.
But I Trump say.
With the Golden Fleet.
Oh, the battleship. I love the new Trumpian battleship. The mess hall is McDonald's, and the hood ornament is a statue of the Donald. It'll all be gold plated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just perfect. Yeah. So this is somebody who's saying something that is factually true, but now irrelevant. And that is that we had the opportunity to see what a Palestinian state would look like, or a two-state solution would look like, when in 2005, George Bush forced Israel to give up Gaza. Mm-hmm. And we saw what happened in Gaza. There wasn't a single Jew in Gaza. It wasn't occupied territory, not a single Jew. And what happened in Gaza? It turned into nothing but a military zone geared to kill Jews, is what it turned out to be. Lines. Yeah. So we know what a Muslim state carved out of Israel looks like. It looks like Gaza. And so he's saying, because of that in 2005, and the Muslims being given, he won't use the term Muslims, but Muslims being given, I won't use the term Palestinian because there is no such thing. But there are Muslims. And by giving the Muslims a state in proximity to Israel, what it turned out to be is a means to bludgeon, rape, plunder, abduct, and kill Jews. So he's saying, therefore, since the two-state solution was abused by he won't say Muslims, but I will, it doesn't exist anymore. It's not on the table anymore. Wrong. Because the whole purpose of Al-Aqsa flood was not to invade Israel. It wasn't to rape Jews. It wasn't to abduct Jews. It wasn't to murder Jews. It wasn't to conquer Israel. The purpose of Alaska flood on October 7th, 23, was to taunt Israel into destroying Gaza. That was the purpose. Because they knew that if Israel destroyed Gaza, oh, children, destroyed my home, and you're unfair, you dastard, you're terrible Jews, you're colonializers, you're occupiers, you're just bad Jews. That's the image. Marxists bought it. Muslims bought it. States throughout the world bought it to the turn of about 90%. Jews bad. I heard a guy that I've listened to 100 times talk about the conditions in Ukraine vis-a-vis the Russian war, saying that he wants another war between Israel and Iran because it will destroy Israel. And in his view, Israel is the cancer in the Middle East.
Wow.
And this guy who likes to equate himself to the shirts that he wears and is an ex-CIA analyst, actually said, "Yeah, I want Israel destroyed. That's what I want. I want Israel destroyed because it is the cancer of the Middle East, not Islam." That's how stupid the people are that used to advise the CIA and now are influencers online. But here's the deal. Because Israel did this thing, the thing that I begged Israel not to do not go and confront Hamas thinking you can eliminate Hamas. Instead, recognize that Hamas is an expression of Islam. You cannot beat a religious foe with bullets and bombs. Don't do that. Because if you do that, you're going to make it worse. And they did that. They made it worse. And the Muslims knew that's what they were going to do. They had already formed all these wonderful alliances with the hideous alliances, really, with the Marxists. They had already been funded by Qatar worldwide to have all these demonstrations on death to Jews and genocide in Israel from the river to the sea. Let's wipe them out. Let's globalize the Intifada. They knew Israel was going to do this. They knew that the result would be that they would turn the world against Israel. And by so doing, they guaranteed the creation of an Islamic state carved out of Israel. Do they want the two-state solution?
No, they want a one-state
they
solution.
do not. They want a one-world solution, which is that it's Islamic or Marxist everywhere. And that's what they want. They want the obliteration of Israel through the creation of a terrorist state carved out of the heart of Israel. But you, pal, don't get it. You were played and taunted into destroying Gaza for the express purpose of, by destroying Gaza, they turn the world against Israel. And now Israel only has one friend, and that friend is the great betrayer. He is the copper confabulator, the man who is demon possessed in Donald Trump. And he is absolutely going to betray Israel, and soon. And this is what Israel did to itself. So I'm sorry, pal. What you've said is absolutely true, but now it is completely irrelevant. And the Fakistanian state carved out of the heart of Israel is inevitable, and it's imminent. And that is what the prophets have also declared.
It's all right there for us to read.
We should probably end on this one because we're an hour and 50 minutes already into our vlog on the blog. There's so many good things to talk about. We could do this for.
We could just keep going and go. Yeah.
We just keep right on and going.
Outdoor studio.
Yes, we can move. Right. We'll send Rich out and set up the outdoor studio, and we'll. It's a beautiful day in paradise. We just go right on outside. This is so stunningly stupid. The man on Trump's left, camera right, is a cokehead. He is a man who accepted bribes. The man on the left is the man who's received more bribes than anybody in the world. He's he received $20 billion in bribes before his crypto family business and his crypto coin initiative funded by the Pakistanis, the Qataris, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. So those countries prior to his indulgence in the crypto scheme had already given him $20 billion. He is the most bribed individual on the planet. He sells pardons for between $1 and $2 million apiece. He is complete and utter scum. And he is the man who has toyed with the man on his left in the sense of completely destroying him in their first meeting in the White House, where Trump was just flat out disgustingly rude. But Trump ended that meeting by saying, you know, the only solution here is we have to back out and stop sending weapons to Ukraine, because this war will go on forever if we continue to arm the Ukraine. More Ukrainians are going to die. This is not a good thing. He walked out of the Oval Office and made that pronouncement. I said, oh my God, this guy's actually figured something out that's right. But then he paraded his theme to the Europeans. He says, no, we're not buying that. And when the Europeans wouldn't buy into it, and the United States global reach of its dollar as the reserve currency is gone without the European acquiescence to it, he backed right down. He said, all right, well, more weapons to Ukraine. What the hell? And then he went to, well, we're not going to give weapons to Ukraine. We're going to make Europe buy the weapons that we give to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. He just went from the only hope of a solution to assurance that this will all end in world war. I don't think there isn't a solution anymore, because the Russians have no incentive to stop.
Yeah.
And the
we
Europeans
have nothing to bring to the table to them.
They have nothing to bring to the table, and nothing left of NATO. There's nothing left of the EU. There's nothing left really of the US. And so by pursuing this, we made in every possible way a bad situation worse, including in Ukraine, but also in terms of America's standing in the world. They got absolutely played for a fool. And there is no solution anymore.
Russia has everything it wanted. Yeah. It has Donbass. It's protecting those ethnically Russian people, and it has Crimea. So Russia's like, do you want us to keep going? You know, we could stop at any time. We have what we want, but
ultimately Russia's going to take Odessa too, and turn the Black Sea into its own pond, and eliminate the influence of Europe through Ukraine into the Black Sea. And since Turkey is dependent upon Russia for energy, just as Germany was, they saw what happened to Germany when you changed that. Even though Turkey is part of NATO, Turkey is never going to tango with the Russians. So the Black Sea is going to be a Russian lake, and they'll eventually take NATO. They don't want Kiev. They don't want Western Ukraine. It's too expensive in the sense that too many immoral people dependent on bribes. They don't want the responsibility of that. Let them bankrupt Europe. Russia doesn't want that. They just want their Russian-speaking obelisks, and that goes all the way to the point where they'll likely take Odessa, and there won't be anything left. Just total swath of immorality and decay. And the Ukraine has been that way for a very long time. Back in my Shattering Myths radio days, I used to do programs on the Ukraine, talking about how it was the most graft-ridden state in Europe by a long margin, and that it was totally dependent upon the IMF and Russia for financial loans, because they couldn't pay their own way. And that we finally reached a position where the Russians were supplying the money for the Ukrainians to be so graft-ridden. It's about 20-30% of everything that happens in Ukraine that turns into graft. And that you can't run a business when you take 20% off the top. It's
the top.
zero chance of success. No business will survive that. And so countries can't survive it either. But the Russians had a way of accommodating the Ukrainian graft, and they knew the Ukrainians well because they had the pipelines from Russia through the Ukraine into Europe. And so they could say the transit fees will be our your return on our loans. That's the interest on our loans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the IMF wanted to be the source of funds that they had no way to collect, and this then led to the coup of regime change, and from the pro-Russian to the anti-Russian crew, and then our decision that we would weaponize Ukraine to attack Russia. And this is what happened, and it all backfired because rather than the IMF being ripped off by about $2 billion a year, which was really all that required. Ukraine's not all that big. Now we're in it for $100 billion a year, and and the country is now completely destroyed. So it was such a horrible calculus going back over that time, and with people that that prior to the Nazis controlling Germany and then much of Europe, the Ukrainians were more savage than the Nazis actually ever became. This is where pogroms began. This is where the most ruthless of the anti-Jewish attacks not only occurred long prior to the rise of the Nazis, but during the time of the Nazis. There's nothing worse than Ukraine. This is the rump of Europe and has been for a very long time. It is a group of people that are synonymous with the cokehead there on camera right. And to say that you're for freedom and democracy and rule of law and integrity when you're backing the Ukraine against Russia, you're actually on the opposite side. You are promoting and sponsoring and encouraging and siding with all manner of graft, of dictatorships, of militarism and belligerence, and it's a real shame that the world has come to the point where the heads of state now are as disgusting and reprehensible as they are in Ukraine, in the United States, and throughout Europe. I'm not sure there's a decent leader in the whole of Europe. I mean, Orban might be the closest, but I wouldn't trust. I'd count my fingers after I shook hands with him.
Yeah. Well, the veil has been torn off of all of them now. I mean, politics has never been a service industry the way they present it, ever. Okay. But the veil has completely been torn off now with the corruption, and it's overtly a money-making scheme to hold office.
Yes, it is. Well, look at Trump. Trump would have been bankrupt and in jail had Elon Musk not come up with $300 million in those swing states to prevail and get him in the White House. And once he was in the White House, he picked up billions upon billions of dollars in bribes and went back to being independent and financially wealthy. I mean, you look at the likes of people who have been bartenders or refugees who are now in Congress on $100,000, $200,000 a year salaries, and they're worth tens of millions of dollars. It's all because of graft.
Yeah.
It's all because of graft, and the United States seems to accept it. So, politics in America, you may think we have a democracy. We don't have a democracy. It's you're just being entertained. You're being played by propaganda, and whether you're religious or patriotic, you've been played, and you're a fool to have been played. Your religion is untrue. Your politics is untrue. YAHOWAH is correct, and diminishing all of those. That's, by the way, a very fancy microphone you have there. I see that microphone now on a number of the more popular programs on YouTube, that it seems to have some controls on the mic. I'm using here the Shure 7B, which is the microphone of choice for the last I just passed the Stone Age, I think. That
73, 74 when this first came out.
Yeah, 73, 74. Michael Jackson did Thriller on this microphone, as a matter of fact. And it's the ubiquitous choice of most vloggers worldwide is the Shure 7B. But it's popular because it's reliable. It does its thing, and it does its thing in a very effective way. The thing that you've got there, who's the manufacturer of that?
This is the Blue Yeti. I'm not sure who manufactured
the Blue Yeti.
I'm familiar with the Blue Yeti. Yeah,
you are familiar with it?
It's very popular in the talk because it's a USB mic rather than a...
Oh, it's a USB mic. Okay. Yep. So yeah, we looked at back in the day, you have to make you're making 1,000 decisions to do this vlog thing. I mean, from mics to lights to sound processors, video processing, cameras. It's 1,000 decisions that you're making. And one of the decisions is, are you going to mic yourself this way, which is the more standard. Back in my days of radio, we used these kinds of mics and the cables and the connectors. But now they have an entirely different approach where you go USB all the way, which means that the forthright sound box that we're using as the mixer, it's a different approach entirely to managing sound.
Yeah, but if you're an individual by yourself jumping into a podcast and still have other guests coming up remotely, the Yeti's a good mic. There's an adapter for the SM7B that turns it into a USB mic, and a lot of people are using that also.
Yep. So anyway, that's XLR. That's the
standard.
That's the standard connection that we have here, and you can see it's been elongated by that added bit of silver that I showed you, because we have a preamp that also charges the system, and then we've gone to the forthright Scarlett was the choice that everybody had. I think I bought 4 of them. They're only $100 a piece. And now we've gone to a box that makes it, it's like comparing the
we have an 8-channel.
It's 8-channel, comparing the Yeti to a mouse running through the woods. So it's quite the difference. But that's it. That is the mic of choice now by many of the non-studio vloggers who are doing a show typically where they don't have all of the backup that you'd have if somebody actually being, they don't have a Rich as king of the cables.
Right. This is the only one Mom would let me have in her basement. So
this is the only one that Mom. Yeah, that's when we started this. When YAHOWAH said, "I want you to do vlogging," and I said, "Well, vlogging, that's a teenager in Mom's basement." I was a teenager back 400 years ago. So no, we're not doing that. I didn't say we're not doing that. I never tell God you're not doing something, because he's always smarter than I am. So are you sure? Are you sure we're going to be doing that? So here we are. Anyway, that's probably a good place. We've done 2 hours of the vlog on the blog. I'll bet you there's another 20 posts there that I would love to comment on, because this is such a wonderful way to cut through the chase, tell you really what's happening in the world, provide a more accurate rendering of the news, tell you what you ought to be concerned about, where you're being lied to, what things really mean when Trump has his arm on Zelensky's shoulder, and Zelensky is got that smirk there. What does that really mean? How did this start? Where is it going? How does the money change hands? And what is the off-ramp? And, here you happen to have an off-ramp, which is if the U.S. were to prevail and regime change and the destruction of Russia, it's going to be the annihilation of the U.S. and Europe through nuclear war. And if you lose, it's going to be the loss of a couple of million lives and hundreds of billions of dollars, the trashing of your economy because you put sanctions on Russia and confiscated their sovereign wealth, which means that no one now trusts the U.S., which means we're no longer in a dominant position and for reserve currency. You need to know what all the implications are of these things, so you're not just a typical patriot saying, go. I'm for Zelensky. I'm against that Putin guy. You're just being played for a fool. And the purpose of the vlog on the vlog is to cut through all of that so that you really know what the truth is behind the headlines. Because you're certainly not going to find it if you're only blogging. Because I will assure you, on the most popular blogging sites now, on X, for example, it is a cesspool of anti-Semitism, of racism, of Marxists and MAGAs and Muslims, all run amok. A very, very toxic environment. In fact, it may be more toxic than Mars.
Freedom of speech without freedom of reach. They're never going to let you reach out.
No, they particularly on X, when Elon Musk turned X over to Gronk and said that we're not going to run X like it used to be on Twitter. On Twitter, what you got to decide is whose posts you would see by following them. And people got to determine whether or not they want to see what you have to say by following you. But I am here to tell you that once Elon Musk turned X over to Grok, what happened is people that follow you may or may not see what you post. Most won't. And people you follow, you won't see what they post. You're going to be served a feed that's based upon what Grok wants you to see, and your posts are going to be distributed based upon what Grok wants you to be able to convey. And artificial intelligence is going to be the most destructive force in the world over the short order. It is causing people to no longer think for themselves, and it is being presented as intelligent when it is not. It is a system that takes information off of the top. It is a finger up in the air. What is the most popular and most prevalent conclusion, of which popularity is absolute proof that something is wrong? Mankind has never been right. Truth has never been popular. Yahweh in particular has never been popular. So it amalgamizes the most popular deceptions of the time and calls that an answer. It does very shallow research, if any at all, and it most certainly isn't moral, most certainly isn't judgmental, cannot process anything from somebody who is cutting edge. If you are promoting that which is much more innovative, like every PhD is supposed to write a dissertation where they're advancing the extent of human knowledge. It is incapable of processing that. My 35 books all take us way beyond where we were previously relative to God. It is absolutely opposed to anything like this. And so Gronk cannot take you into the future, cannot take you beyond where man is wallowing right now, and is incapable of learning, and is incapable of exercising good judgment, and is precluding many people. Just like when we came out with the calculator and I said, this is going to be a problem because people aren't going to process math in their heads anymore. They're not going to be able to reason in their heads anymore. We're going to destroy people's ability to think. when we destroyed their desire to process math and probabilities in their heads. And it's what happened. And then when we came up with the smartphone so that everything was in the palm of your hands, people react to the world through it as opposed to interacting with one another or thinking on their own or doing some research on their own. It has really become a very dangerous position. And then educationally, we started indoctrinating people as opposed to teaching them how to think. We made thinking a negative because that's being judgmental. Parenting the platitudes of those who control the academic situation, that became the mantra. And now we have two generations who simply spew political platitudes that are wholly inconsistent with reality. And it's a very dangerous spot that we have put ourselves in. And then the social media is now amplifying this voice of nonsense. There are very few thoughtful, judgmental, well-informed, rational people in the world today. Very few. And those two guys that are above you there, they are not included in that group. And, Yah was really clear. Ignorance is not bliss. What does he say about ignorance?
It is the killing
My people perish.
My people die. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Yeah.
My people are destroyed for lack of knowing. Yeah, ignorance is not bliss. And particularly as we move through this next 7.5 years that are going to be so horrific, it's going to be hell on earth. And your ignorance is not going to be your friend. The ignorance of Islam has caused hundreds of millions of people to die and for the world to be robbed of freedom. And Marxism is very quickly catching up with Islam in terms of being destructive, being thieving, being counterproductive and murderous. And these two horrible mindsets have now merged of Marxism and Muslims, such that the world's in a very precarious place. And then you have a man who is clearly demon possessed. The corporeal manifestation of Satan is the man wearing that pink tie right there. He is the person that Christians were looking for as the Antichrist. That's the man. He is the corporeal manifestation of Satan, and we know exactly what he is going to do and when he is going to do it over the next 7.5 years. And it's going to literally be hell on earth. Billions are going to die. Economies are going to be shuttered. The United States has played its economic hand now to the point where it is absolutely certain that within the next 5 years, and likely within a shorter window still, the U.S. is going to move into hyperinflation because we have no one to buy our bonds. No one. No one. $4 trillion gets rolled over every year. There's no one to buy them, which means the only way that we can create the illusion of solvency and not default in the U.S. is quantitative easing, which is the Fed creating the illusion of purchasing the bonds by just creating more money. And when you inflate the monetary supply without substance, it destroys the value of the currency. From the time that I was born 70 years ago to today, the US dollar has 1% of its value. It's lost 99% of its value over those 70 years. And it's losing its value now at an exponential rate. And so the only ploy the U.S. has at this point, based on all of the malfeasance that it has perpetrated over these decades, is hyperinflation. And the result of hyperinflation will be default. And then the result of default will be the reset. And the reset will rob everyone of their savings and everyone of all value, and put everyone in a position where you will have an electronic currency that is a leash on you. And you will only get money to spend where they want you to spend it if you're considered to be a very good boy or girl and you're acquiescing to what they want. And so this is the future. It will all play out in the next 5 years in the United States and in Europe, also in Japan. So you got a 5-year window max, and it could play out in 3 years. It's total economic collapse. This is why Trump knows he's not running for re-election again. He's not leaving the White House. He will leave the White House, and America in 2030 is going to Israel because he wants to be God of the world as opposed to just God of the United States and Europe. But that is inevitable, and we are putting ourselves in the crosshairs of world war because China is not going to put up with our nonsense, and Russia is not putting up with our nonsense. And the United States can't defend itself. So we are headed to world war. We are certain for economic collapse. And we have put ourselves in a position where the sources of information are even more corrupt and more erroneous than was the mainstream media. The mainstream media, I always used to say that 90% of what you read about anything of substance is wrong. I mean, if you were an expert in any subject, which I'm an expert in many subjects, not in all subjects, obviously, but many subjects, I'm probably as much of an expert as anybody in the world. And I recognized that everything that I was reading was erroneous regarding those subjects. And as bad as that is, social media is worse. And people no longer have the filter to discern right from wrong. They don't know how to process information judgmentally. They don't know how to be discriminating and judgmental. And so we are witnessing 3 things happen at the same time: economic collapse, world war, and a total degradation of humanity's capacity to think rationally. That does not end well. Well, we know how it ends. It ends with the complete obliteration of all of the dunderheads, the religious dunderheads, conspiratorial, anti-Semitic, and religious, as well as political. They're all eliminated, and God is going to do the ultimate reset. But in his reset, everybody comes out fabulously wealthy and enriched and empowered, and rather than controlled, emancipated. So there will be a great reset, but very few people are going to be part of it. And that's going to occur in less than 8 years from now. So that is the happy note.
I'll be there. Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to establish roots there. I'm going to
Still a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do, and and we're going to do the best we can to help people through it. And a program like this, a vlog on the blog, I think goes a long way to making that possible. So thank you. I've enjoyed the lovely sounds of the new mic, Yeti and all, and glad we were able to do this. So thank you so much.